just tell you as a prosecutor, what you're going to look at is a very simple fact. And that is, were the officers, when they killed Alex Preddy, were they reasonable in fearing for their lives? That's it. That's the defense they have. The only defense they have is that they reasonably believed that their lives were in danger. So you can take the video that we just have seen of him kicking the taillight. You can take him showing agitation towards ICE. You can take anything that happened before they had him down on the ground. But if I'm talking to a jury, I am telling them at the moment they pulled the trigger, was that man in reasonable fear for his life? They clearly had him subdued. They had removed his gun. So that's what prosecutors are looking at. And that's all they're looking at, because all the other stuff doesn't matter. It does not matter. In our country, you don't get to kill somebody if you're a police officer unless a jury decides you're in reasonable fear for your life.
It is all... Go ahead, Simone.
No, I just my follow-up question to that is, it makes me think about where are the officers that killed Alex Preddy? We know that they are now on administrative leave, paid administrative leave. We know the DHS seems to be withholding the names of these agents intentionally because we know a lot of information about them. We know that they did a mental health consultation. Where are the officers that killed Alex Preddy? Who are the officers that killed Alex Preddy? I think these are important questions.
I think we'll find that out. I think there will be hearings. I think their names will come out. And I think decisions will have to be made first by the federal government and secondly by local prosecutors. Don't get me wrong. Whenever you bring criminal charges against a law enforcement officer, it is a high bar. And by the way, it probably should be, because the vast majority of our law enforcement officers in this country put themselves in danger every day. They put themselves in very, very dangerous situations. I don't know that ICE has put themselves in dangerous situations as much as they have caused dangerous situations. So I honestly think that all of this will come out. I think their names will come out. I think obviously they're going to be looking very carefully at what this investigation finds at the federal level. But once again, everybody needs to stay focused on one thing. Forget about the taillight, forget about the spitting, forget about the shoving of the woman on the ground. When they pulled that trigger, was it reasonable that they were fearful for their lives? And it clearly, all of those, according to my eyes, they weren't. They clearly had subdued him. He was no longer a danger.
There are all of those questions, Adam, and then there also seem to be questions about the messaging that has come from this administration. You've been writing about the fissures within the MAGA base. I also think it is notable the fissures within MAGA leadership. Take a look at this headline. It's from Politico. You have Stephen Miller blaming DHS for a lot of the messaging that happened in the aftermath of Preddy's shooting. And at the same time, you have Axios publishing a report claiming that Noam's first statement accusing Preddy of domestic terrorism was driven by Stephen Miller, right? So they are now pointing fingers at one another. Are we going to see the same fissures that are manifesting in the base actually show up in accountability for their leadership?
I think what we've seen from the reaction to this killing is that, most American Republicans do not have the appetite for blood that seems to be popular among some of the president's advisors. But the fact is, these men shouldn't be there in the first place. They're not there for any good reason. They're not enforcing immigration law. The president said he sent them there because Minnesota's a corrupt state that he won a bunch of times. He hasn't won it once. They are essentially acting as a partisan militia that is meant to make life miserable for the people of Minneapolis in particular and Minnesota writ large, because the president is angry that there are a group of immigrants there, Somali Americans, who he has a personal hostility towards. Now, that's an absurd reason to send federal agents into a city, not to mention the fact that these men are masked. They're not identified. They're kitted up like special forces. It's not surprising that the people of Minneapolis would not want to be treated that way. You know who else didn't like being treated that way? The people who founded this country. So I think, all of this comes from the original absurd decision to send a bunch of armed men to occupy an American city in the first place.